Hello and good afternoon, TVI viewers. Welcome to CrossRoads with Neethan Shan. As you know, CrossRoads is a weekly talk show dedicated to discussing a variety of topics that are relevant to the social, economic, political, and cultural advancement of Tamil Canadians. Young Tamil Canadian artists have obtained worldwide fame in the past few years. This has brought the artist and the industry, if you will, to the forefront in Canada. So in today's episode of CrossRoads, we hope to explore the status of talent development within our community. What are the things that we are doing right that we need to continue? What are the things that we are doing wrong that we need to stop? And more importantly, of course, what are the things that we need to start doing to advance talent development in our community? In short, we will do a start, stop, continue analysis of Canadian Tamil talent development. To discuss this topic, I'm joined here by three amazing young artists and established artists as well. And first, Lenin. Lenin is no stranger. Lenin M. Sivam is a Canadian filmmaker. He was born in Jaffna, Sri Lanka and raised in Toronto, Canada. He's a talented storyteller who writes, directs, and produces most of his films. Sivam is widely acclaimed as someone who revolutionized Eelam cinema through his offbeat, realistic, and powerful depiction of the Tamil Diaspora. His first short film, A Few Good People, won the Best Short Film of the Year award from the Independent Arts Film Society in 2006. And after several years of making short films, Sivam first achieved international recognition with his featured film debut, 1999 in 2009. Which won a critical acclaim, winning several film awards both in Canada and around the world, establishing Sivam as an emerging Canadian filmmaker to watch for. Sivam was named as one of the Toronto's most influential Tamil by the Tamil Culture magazine in 2012. His success continued with his next film, A Gun and a Ring, 2013 release, which was well received both critically and commercially and made its world premiere at the Shanghai International Film Festival in June 2013 and shortlisted for the Golden Goblet Award. So, Lenin, that's a very impressive profile.
That was long.
Now I take a breath. But yeah, that's amazing work that you've done in particularly as I said, revolutionizing Eelam cinema from a diaspora's point of view. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks.
And our next guest is Lakshmi Sivaneshwaralingam. Lakshmi is a final year student at the University of Toronto, completing her undergrad degree in music. She will begin her postgrad in September in music education. She's not only a musician and a dancer, but also active member of the community as well. So thank you, Lakshmi, and you're a multi-talented person. You dance and you sing, and you're now actually formally following your academic profile as well. So, and next guest is Yalini Rajakulasingham. Yalini is a classical dancer trained in Bharatanatyam. She graduated from the University of Toronto with a major in political science and minor in theatre and performance studies and religion. She started training under her mother, Mani Mehalai, and then began her formal training under Srimati Niranjana Chandru. After completing her Arangetam, she went to India and began her advanced training under Nartaki Narraj. She then has been traveling to India and performing and continuing her training there as well. So Yalini, welcome to the show. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us about talent development. This is a very critical topic. As I mentioned, last few years, we've gained international fame through a number of artists. In film industry, in music, through competitions as well. So this brings us to a kind of reflecting back. Maybe we can reflect back last 20 years. Some of you weren't born probably at that time, but you probably know the kind of the trends that have existed. And Lenin and I are slightly younger than you, so so we can probably go back a little bit longer. So let's talk about talent development, and I want to talk about the positive things that are happening because our community has been doing a certain amount of things to encourage talent and encourage innovation in talent and so on. So let's talk in the first segment about some of the positive things that are happening in our community, some of the things that we are doing right that we need to continue doing. So I'll start with Yalini.
I think that's a very layered question, and I think there's so many ways of answering, and they're all connected. There's so many good that we can find in our community. I think the first and foremost is our parents. They understand the value of extracurricular activities like dance and music, and from a young age they enroll their children in dance and music, and children are able to find out that they have these hidden talents that they wouldn't know they had if they were only in public school. So from a young age they go to dance and music and they learn these art forms. And another really good thing is that there's so many opportunities not just to perform but also to observe. And for performing artists, I think that's a really, really, really important thing. Not just being on stage and getting over stage fright, but also being on the other side and watching performers. When I go to India, my teacher, she always says, Yalini, go here and watch this performer, watch this dancer, watch this group, because it's not only good to see it's not only good for you to see the good, but also the bad, because that way you can place yourself and see, where am I standing, and you can judge yourself. Am I doing this well? Oh, this person is doing that, and you get to judge yourself and see where your standard is. I remember when I was younger, my mom would take me to performances, and she'd be like, "Oh, look at that girl! Look how she does this! Look at how she does that!" So for young performers, when they watch other people, they get to see what is good and pick up on that when they're training. Another thing that that's just really great in our community is the variety of art forms. So when I was younger, I think everyone did Bharatanatyam, Carnatic music, Mridangam, violin, veena, but now that boundary is expanding. So now where they're doing light music, they're doing, we see hip hop, contemporary, Ghana, like we're seeing all these different art forms. In the past few months, Priyadashini, her and her troupe have been traveling around with their pares and performing pariyatam, which is amazing because these little kids nowadays, they grow up seeing this instrument and they'll be able to recognize it as something, as a cultural art form. And for us, who, diaspora Tamils, I think it's really important that when you want to pass on a cultural identity, language is extremely important. So yes, Tamil language is important, but also other variables like food, religion, architecture, but also art forms. Because for me, I learned so much about my own culture through these art forms. So I think that's what we're doing really well.
Thank you. Lakshmi, is your experience been the same around what areas do you think that we're doing well?
So I can totally relate to what Yalini said, but I think the past couple of years, or very recently, we've been focusing on our young youth, and it's all about promoting the young talents that we have in our community. And I think the greatest thing about this is the youth themselves are taking that extra step and extra initiative to post their talent and showcase themselves over social media, which is like the biggest medium that we can put ourselves through right now. So that's posting their videos, posting their dances, any performances that they have done, and then sharing that to international artists who recognize our talents, and maybe they start collaborations, or even the simplest thing as getting likes or being notified. As someone who has these talents, that's just something really great.
Yeah. So we hear the kind of the family value for arts. We hear about the opportunities that's being presented, both to watch and learn, and also to practice and perform. And then the diversification recently, and then the younger artists getting a lot of attention through social media, encouragement through social media, and so on. So this is kind of the package of what we're seeing in the dance and the arts, music, and so on. And Lenin, you've seen the growth. You're not that older than the other artists, but you've began your work when things were a little more difficult as well in our community. So how has that changed?
No, this is like as Yalini's parents, it used to be the parents-driven thing, and the communities, our community didn't pay, because we had so many other issues. We were fighting a war back home, and there were so many issues. But as you said, we have reached international level, particularly from Toronto alone, and that's the community for me. Like going back to 2005 when I started my first film, like nobody was even, they didn't even care about it. But later on, I could slowly see, slowly media came in, and then they started recognizing us, and then the business community started recognizing us, and then the community as well, the organizations there, they started recognizing us, and then they slowly, helped us to move forward. But if you compare this to any other place in the world, usually a bigger institution like the government or big corporations will be backing up, like especially the film industry. And for us here, we don't have anything, and we have come a long way. And in Canada, we have almost produced 40 feature films, and some of them went to international level, and we are going high, and there are so many kids are going and getting trained as professional artists, like actors, dancers, and music, and it's really an encouraging thing, and I think the communities should be credited for this.
So I mean, the very key point is that in the lack of government or established country that can support talent development, our community is actually doing that function as well. So what's the difference you see from, the film is a composite of everything. There's performers, there's different artists whose work go behind the scene, in the front of the scene, and so on, right? So not to play any of the other arts down, but this is complex because it includes a lot of different layers. And individually you could shine, but it's harder to shine in a film related things, right? So do you see the same level of growth that we are seeing, or is there a particular attention being, I don't want to pit one against the other, but is there so much more focus on those than films? Is there a reason for it? Or
focus as the community?
Community, yeah.
There are so much as there is focus. Yeah. But the thing is, I want to point out that not to discredit anything about Jalini's parents doing. The film is a collaborative effort. It's a parent or individual or family, or they cannot do it. Yeah. It has to be a community effort. You have to bring so many people together. Lots of money is involved, and people have to come to the theater and support these artists. And then of course these individual artists, they come together and then they collaborate and then they produce a film. So film is in a totally different level. That's why it took a while for us to pick up, but we are there. As a community, we are there. So that's a remarkable thing. And then thanks to these individual commitments of the parents, and then as well as the community and the media, especially.
Let's talk a bit about media for you both, right? In the current context, there's a proliferation of media as well, online media, photojournalism, and so on, right? And in fact, if Jalini or Lakshmi did a performance today, you can go home and see like 6 different places where photos are there. You don't actually have to take, before it used to be just the parents taking pictures for your archive. Right now you have documentations, you have likes, and you have discussion about it. And then the branding itself, I know artists are starting to brand themselves in social media as an entity, as a brand. Do you see that being supported as well? How do you see the media's role? Has it been supportive in general, and what kind of support have you received?
Oh, it's so helpful because before, you would perform at an event and your performance is only known to the people that came. No one else knows you performed there, and if people aren't following channels that are showcasing showing what happened that week, they're not going to know about it. But now it's a lot different. You have Nineveh, you have Tal Mayer, you have Ruben Camp. They're all these people that are media people that are putting up these pictures and videos. So everyone is coming to know of it. So people know that even if they're not physically there, they're still able to view it afterwards, and it helps you too because it shows that you're performing. It shows people that this is a frequent face. They're performing a lot, and that's one way of becoming recognized.
And I think with the media putting up our pictures and videos instantly, especially on Facebook, which is so popular amongst everyone, there are so many people that are viewing these websites. I mean, people that I might not have, or people that she might not have, and it might be like a bigger producer, like any music composer, anyone. So instantly they get to see what's available in our community and what's going on and what's present and what's hot. Yeah.
So this has also created a bit of a competition as well, right? Because it is open media. You don't have filters. You don't have favorites being played by, quote unquote established media. You can create your own media, right? But since in the first segment we're talking about the positive things, let me ask about the collegiality, because you're part of a lot of artist groups. I see artists always propping up each other, and the selfies with a group of people, and I've seen like. I think it's a sign of growth as well, of people working together, collaborating, forming that alliances, because there's no point in dividing us when we are all fighting for resources together, right? So what's your take on that?
Well, I find as musicians, it is so hard to establish yourself as one solo person, and especially because we have so many unique talents. Everyone has a different style associated to them at this point. One has Carnatic, one has hip hop and R&B, one can bring melody. So there's so many different genres out there, and I feel like collaborating that into one group and showcasing one big thing is very powerful. Especially now, I just started my own group with 8 singers, and we want to start like an a cappella and unplugged kind of style, which isn't that big of a genre that has been touched yet. So just bringing all our talents together and putting that out. And I find that there's so much reach, and us ourselves, we've intrigued a lot of youth to start new projects like that. I'm seeing a lot of questions, a lot of people want to collaborate with us, a lot of people starting these unplugged and a cappella projects. So
nice. Yeah. You touched on, we talked a bit about media, you touched on businesses, you mentioned that, right? Again, when you talk about successes and community support, businesses is critical. How has it been? Because in some cases they're not getting the return that they're putting as well, right? But it's an investment that they willing to make. So.
No, in most of the cases they are not getting their returns, and especially when it comes to films. These guys, there are businessmen, they bought tickets for $1,000 for my premiere. Like there are so many people. That's how we were able to bring in 1,200 people for the premiere of my latest film. So these guys are like, they are really out there and they are going out of their way to help us out. And the same way goes to the media, especially the TV and radios. Not forget about the social media. These guys are, going out of their way to help them. But the complaint that I have is with them. Well, up until now, it's okay. The way that embracing everyone. But there are, art form is very emotional, right? There are so many excited people. And you need to have some sort of quality or some sort of control system, because what I'm seeing is that some of these media is losing credibility. So you promote a product of an artist, and then the people come, and then if they get disappointed, then the same media promote another artist who has like tangibly good art form or something, and then the people don't come.
Okay.
So
that's a great segue for us to go into the next part of it.
Next part? I thought we started that
part. We will, but we're going to take a quick commercial break, and I think that's a clear segue to talk about, everything has double-sided, right, and double-edged sword, we say, right? Everything that helps us could also hurt us if we're not doing it right, and talking about media is a critical conversation to have. So I'll come back to you right after a few minutes commercial break, and we'll be talking about. We already talked about what we need to continue that we're doing well. After the break, we'll talk about what are some things we need to stop doing. Welcome back. You're watching CrossRoads with Neethan Shan. We're talking about talent development in the Canadian Tamil community and what we need to do to improve it. And we started talking about things that we need to stop. It's critical for us to know what we need to stop, because it's the evaluation process. If we don't evaluate and stop certain things, it's going to be. And you talking about media promotions and then unconditional promotion of artists without having a quality. So let's talk a bit more about.
It's not a complaint or anything. Yeah. We were in a position that unconditional support was needed, but now I think, as a whole, as a community, we have reached to a level where we need to have some sort of, quality control. This can come outside of artist world, the critics or somebody else, and I think the media has to play a role here. And then, because I can see that some of these media is losing credibility, because some of the promotion there, no matter how hard they give the promotion, because it's not going, because people are disappointed. Because the artist, there are various type of artists, and it's as I said, it's an emotional thing for an artist. And then if you support everything, and then people are going to come and pay their money, and then if they are disappointed, then they're going to, because we are in a very fragile stage. And then I think it's consciously we have to be very careful what to promote and what not to promote.
So that we don't end up with more Kalpana Akka. So
I was going to say.
But I think that's music and comedy slash. So people need that break.
But I think that's one of the big mistakes we're making, because there's so many trained and professional musicians out there that are putting themselves forth to the community and want to be acknowledged, and then something like this that comes up as a comedy but hits like more fame than someone who's trained and is looking for that acknowledgement. So.
Yeah, and that's the peril of social media. Like why this Kolaveri was
huge.
Not the best song of the year, but I think that's viral marketing. I think that's I mean hopefully she doesn't get the best singer of the year award. Then we're getting into or having concerts and things like that, right? But but at the same time, there's a bit of a viral human
Yeah.
involved in, like the Gangnam Style and all this stuff, right? It's a bit of a. Let's talk a bit about this artist, and you're formally training, right? And and I think in your fields, formal training and all those things mean a lot. And there are people who might just do it for the fun and hobby, and so it's kind of gone down. Like you said, in the earlier days, we promoted anybody who were doing that, right? But what else do we need to stop doing? Maybe Lakshmi, you can start thinking about anything else that as a community that we need to stop.
I think bringing international artists is, it's a great way for us to view what's out there and how we need to develop ourselves and how we need to grow. But I feel that that's also stopping our young artists from shining, right? Because we have a lot, especially now, we have a lot of young artists who are interested in all the art forms that are out there, but sometimes we're not being shone upon, or our talents are being dropped because we have so many other talents that are coming in. Which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, we need to be exposed to what's out there, but we also need to promote what's in our community.
We cannot be naive. It's a globalized market, right? We have to appreciate talents that comes from other parts of Tamil community and the world, and work together. But sometimes I get this feeling that we have local talents that are often not recognized, but when they go and get some recognition externally, all of a sudden they are celebrities, right? And Lenin has been around. Lenin, once he gets international recognition, he gets a bit more thing into the company, which is good. But at the same time, why are we not doing things to recognize these talents and promote them ahead of time, right? So.
I think from now more about on a dancer's point of view, I think when you take Bharatanatyam, for example, it was an art form that was created in the temples and performed. The traditional way of performing it is you would do an introduction piece, you have a main item like a Varnam, and then you have like Kirtanam Tilana, Kirtanas, Padams, and Tilana. So you have a very long margam, or that's a technical term for a full program. But nowadays, what happens is you usually perform for you get the opportunity to perform for about 5 minutes, 7 minutes. There's always a time limit. And I think that that's kind of a thing that we need to change. For example, when I go to India and I perform, we usually perform, minimum is an hour. That's the stage time. But here I understand, like, you're working for an organizer that may not have, he has other performances that need the time, and it can't be given that much time. But you have to think, like, getting ready for a dance program, it takes like an hour and a half of, makeup, finding the costume. And, now since we have social media, you can't wear the same costume you were before, so you have to wear another one. And, it's
not just you, but the people attending too.
Right. They're so demanding. But there's so much that goes behind the preparation that sometimes just 3 to 5 minutes is not enough. But we are moving in the right direction. There are organizations that are, like CYSC, Carnatic Youth Society of Canada, that are providing monthly programs for just performers to perform for more than half an hour or like 45 minutes. Another issue that I feel that we kind of need to work on is sometimes for dance, we don't get the proper stage. And for something like dance, which is like, it's the floor is very important. Sometimes you'll have uneven, the stage will be uneven. Sometimes it's very small. Sometimes there's no stage at all. And what happens is, the organizer will call and say, we want a very, very good performance and stuff like that. But you have to understand that for a performance, it's not just the dance or the song. It's what makes a performance is the dance, the song, the presentation, the costume, the makeup, but also external factors like lighting, sound, and stage. And to make it the experience a good one, the stage has to be like, you need to invest in stuff like that to have a good stage so that the performance will be able to reach. And sometimes you have things where there'll be a performer, like a dancer, a singer, and they're performing to a crowd that has their back turned, or they're eating, or they're on the floor, so the front row can see, but the rows behind it, they have no idea what's happening. So I think we need to start focusing on giving the art the attention it needs.
Paying attention to other
I can relate to that as well. As a singer, and as a dancer, like, we put so much time into creating a performance that's memorable for everyone and something that the organizer can appreciate, but not having the correct tools that we need maybe. And as a performer, if I'm, like I said, when I take the a cappella group out, if I'm going to need like 8 mics and clean sound, then I guess that's something that we really need. And like little things, right, that can enhance our performance and that can make our performance something that's memorable to the audience.
So what happens hypothetically that somebody calls you and you demand these things as a way to, are they open to that kind of stuff, or is it like a shortcut method of trying to fill a program? Like, I'm not saying everybody, like your point was good in the sense that we are now not getting dedicated time for certain arts. It's kind of plugged into an awards or into a dinner or something along the lines, right? And the crowd that goes to dedicated art is kind of decreasing as well, right?
And also with traditional pieces like Bharatanatyam, a Varanam is so important, but the only time a student gets to do it is at an Arangetram. But then they need, because you learn so much, you learn stamina, you know, expression, Sanjay Bhavs. You don't get to do these outside of, an Arangetram, which is...
So hypothetically, what would happen? Like, do you think our community is ready, or is this something that needs to change in terms of being prepared for supporting artists? Not, again, we'll come to paying and all this stuff later. And in the next part, what do we start to do? But even equipments at basic things that makes the presentation wholesome.
Well, I feel like when we start demanding, there's a little problem that comes
I mean, we can't even say requesting, right?
And when we start asking for certain things that we need, it frustrates the organizer, which is also some trouble for us because we need certain things to fulfill a successful and very good performance. But it's very disappointing when we can't get that, or what we need is not appreciated. So,
Let's talk about film industry as well, and that's right. And you're also exposed to those other places, right?
Yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room, because it's not the organizers the problem. The problem is the audience. They are not ready for 1 hour of seeing Bharatanatyam because they are not educated. Ignorant. Even I didn't know when Yalini was talking about. I thought all the Bharatanatyam has to happen within 10 minutes. Because she was talking about all those technical stuff. Because what I'm saying is some sort of education has to happen, and then these art forms are like more than a Tamil movie. It's not for an entertainment for sake that you go. It has to transcend you. It has to reflect your identity, your culture, and all these things. Great things. I think we need to, as a community, or somehow we need to educate all these things, because I'm so ignorant when it comes to these things, and I think that's the real problem here, because the organizers, they sell tickets to these people, and then if they wanted to just see Bharatanatyam for 10 minutes, what can he do, right?
But I feel like, sorry, to add to that, the classical arts itself, the importance to that is decreasing. Like, we see a lot of more fusions now, a lot of more remixed, or like a lot of performances that have a mix of everything. So I find that the audience doesn't appreciate the traditional and classical arts as they used to. Like, before, a lot of people would go watch long kacheris or long dance recitals, but now we just don't have the respect and appreciation.
But is it just a transformation? I mean, I'm just throwing the devil's advocate thing, right? Is it just a transformation of art, like just cricket, day matches to a one-day match to a 2020, and because to stay alive in this busy thing, you have to popularize it. The fact that you're performing at dinners, which you wouldn't perform
traditionally,
years back, that is because the spaces are created. So, is it necessary that we kind of popularize these arts as a way to keep them alive? I'm just asking.
I think it's a two-way street. Like, we're not still dancing in temples. We have come. We're changing with times. Yeah, we're out of that, and we're coming to these things. But I think like little things, proper stage, proper light, more stage time. I think these things would increase that. And I think once we give Bharatanatyam, for example, the proper value and respect, I think it's people will be more interested in seeing it. But right now, if someone's dancing on a floor in a banquet hall, they're not going to pay attention.
And I think that at some point the artists have to collectively organize to kind of demand certain things, and we'll talk a bit about that in the next segment. Let's talk movies as well. I think as you know, I'm a great Indian movie fan. So how do we balance this? Obviously the entertainment value plus the market they have to produce for. I mean, obviously the Tamil movie cinema from India would say we don't have the same market as Hindi to produce the same level. Like Ravi Kumar would say that. We don't expect Hollywood to come to us because we don't market to them. The same way our market is lower, right? So we can't expect the same thing. So where is this industry going? And is there a collaboration that is necessary between, now we have Tamil Eelam singers who are from Canada singing in the movie industry. Is there collaborations that we can formulate that would help grow, or should we
So
have a
the
unique
collaboration only comes into play if we are marketing our movie with the Indian market as well, right? But this movie issue is a huge issue. It's like even the French industry is still running on steroid, like government-funded Canadian industries like that. Because the nature of movie production is so costly, and then it demands such a huge audience, and then it's so hard for like us to bring it. But as you said, we can collaborate with Indian artists, and then we can use their market to market our film. Then what we have to do is we have to lose our identity,
uniqueness,
our uniqueness, our way of speaking, and the little things will get affected. So it's going back to how the Sinhalese industry survived, right? They put some sort of sanction, and then a certain number of every theaters has to play Sinhalese movie for a certain number of time for this time, and then people didn't have any choice; they had to go and watch it, and then that's how
appreciation.
They are like one of the best in the world now. So it's going back to, again, we don't have a country, we don't have people, but we are very resilient people, and then I think it's the collective consciousness. We have to consciously address this art issue, because art is very important for us, because we are a bunch of people, we are in the brink of losing our identity, per se, and art is the way, and language, as he said.
So we have 3 minutes before we go into the next segment. I want to ask you a quick question. Should we stop calling drama movies when we produce it here? Because it's one of those things when we've seen movies and we try to make a 2-hour, 3-hour movie with song and dance and everything else, right? Is it something we need to stop? I mean, I might have a personal bias towards it from the way I'm asking, but from things that we need to stop, like what do we produce? Should we produce long or should we produce short? Like you started with short films and expanded to, but your movie is not 3 hours yet, right? So you make sure that it's within 1.5 hours.
Yeah. No, it's not about drama, or it's not about entertaining or anything like that, right? It's about getting a response from your audience, right? So for me, like how I got that, it's going personal, right? Emotional stories. Whoever I'm telling the story, it's very emotional. I'm close to them, and I think that's where the key is. We are going to lack the technicalities because we don't have the money, we don't have the expertise, but at least we are that group of people, and then we can emotionally trigger them. So that's the key, I think.
Okay, so let's take a quick break, and so we'll take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll start talking about what do we need to start doing. It's kind of when we say what do we need to stop, it's almost like stop doing something.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as start
doing something
right? But we'll talk a bit more on a proactive strategy that we can develop for artists. So after a few minutes of commercial break, join us back. Welcome back. You're watching CrossRoads with Neethan Shan. We're talking about developing talent within our community, in the Canadian Tamil community, and we're in the third segment of the show where we're going to be talking about proactive strategies in which we can start to address some of the concerns we've had. We're doing a good job in certain areas, but for us to have meaningful talent development, there needs to be a concerted effort, something strategically done as well, right? So let's talk about what's needed. And we'll start with Lenin. You've seen the community's growth, but also seen where we could do better.
So I think we should start, media has to play a more active role, in a sense that they have to be more critical about our art form. And then they have to inform our art form, why the audience need to support in a more, educational way, right? Because if you look at my film, like the media supported, the business community supported, and then about 5% of the whole population came and supported overwhelmingly. But the general the population, like let's say that we have 300,000, about 15,000, watched the movie. But what happened to the rest? So I think somebody has to tell them this is more than going to an Indian Tamil film and paying. It's more because it has about 100 local talented artists who have sacrificed their daily stuff to do something, and then it's a story about our people, our issues. I think they need to look at it from that perspective, rather than just if we go there, I could go to this movie and then spend my time well, right? So I think some sort of awareness has to be created, and then that can happen through the media, and the media should, as I said, openly supporting everyone. They need to be more critical, and they need to, educate the audience how why they need to support it, and then they need to guide them properly. So that's the only way.
So I think the awareness, so audience, it has to start from audience.
Yeah, audience,
right?
Yeah.
And because everything responds to audience, right? So the value of the arts, the value, the contribution, the uniqueness that Canadian Tamil cinema could bring has to be brought in, right? And while doing that, not to promote everybody, but to be critical so that the standard could evolve as well, right? So that, like you said, if people are disappointed after a promotion of one thing, they don't come back, right? So it's hard to bring them back. Anything else that we need to start doing?
I was just thinking, like we spoke earlier, a lot of our talents are not getting the recognition that they need here, so they're seeking it out. And Super Singer is one of the biggest platforms for singers right now. So, I mean, they are doing a great job of helping promote our talents and showcase our talents, but what about the rest of the talented artists here? And then they don't get that recognition that's needed. So, like he said, there are so many talents here, but we need to pick out the quality ones, and then we need to give more importance to that. So,
I mean, we are moving away somewhat to a place where we used to have only daughters and sons of the organizers form to kind of having a celebrity value, right? We know now who Lakshmi is, or who Yalni is, who Lenin is, right? And we kind of have a branding that's happening that we can say, let's get some popular local artists, right? There's a bit of a layering that's happening, but still, it's a bit of a way to go. But let me ask you a question about something related to this, is that artist responsibility in terms of marketing, right? We find, there's research locally that South Asian students in high schools have performed well academically, but their self-esteem and self-confidence is lower than where they are academically. So similarly, we see that artists perform well, but them selling themselves as brand, as an artist, because it's a tough world, and artists have to be very, very confident. I don't want to go like Kalpa, but what I'm saying is, we find even with our international performers, after the performance, when they're asked to talk about it, it's no fault of them, because that's how we socialize our kids to kind of not brag about themselves and so on. Is that going to be a problem? Do we have to have a concerted program to support that?
I think it's really interesting you say that, because it's true. When you have a performer on stage, they're amazing. You see their talent, you're like, wow. But when you take them out of that and you talk to them as an artist, they're not able to talk about it because they're not valued. That's a huge thing. We're not artists, we're not valued. And I think that value comes because in reality, we do this for free. A lot of artists are performing for free. And I feel like if you were to add, if they were to be paid, they would feel more confident, feel like, okay, I'm being valued for my work and I'm being appreciated for my work. I need to work harder. And they would start looking at marketing and branding themselves. My first paycheck ever was when I went to India and I got paid for a performance, It wasn't a lot of money, but it was still something like, oh wow, I can get paid for this. And like for young kids, it's an encouragement. And I think we need to head in that direction. I mean, if you go to a wedding and they have food, and you take in, and it's a buffet, when you take all the food, you may not finish it. But when you go home and you have a cooked meal, you're taught eat everything, because you're paying for the food, so you value it more. We have so many artists here, but they're not valued because they do everything for free. So if you have one Veena player who learned from Rajesh Vaidya, and you have another Veena player who is just kind of beginning, and if the more experienced Veena player asks for money, an organizer might be like, why are they asking for money? I'll just go for the cheaper one. And what happens? The art value decreases. So in order to keep that value up, and in order to make art valued, we need to start, maybe.
Yeah, it's a challenge because I've talked to a number of artists who feel the same way. They need to be compensated, and sometimes some of the organizers are not for profit. They are for profit organizations that make a certain amount of money at the end of the day, right? Yeah. But they go through the banner of saying, we're providing you a forum. But what happens?
I feel like we are also spending all this time to train ourselves professionally and establish something, but we're not getting that value, or like she said, like a small amount is like encouragement, and that would take us to the next level because we feel appreciated. But for the time we're putting in, I feel like we should also get something in return. Yeah,
but is there a fear? I mean, one of the artists mentioned that if I start asking that, they will stop calling, and then you become irrelevant because you're not performing as much, and then you kind of think, right? So I guess
for sure,
some place for unions. I'm a lefty a bit.
For sure.
For artist union to kind of, or a collective to kind of start.
Yeah, like I don't want people to start saying, oh, Yanni's demanding. No, I don't get paid for my performances. I just said as a community, I'm part of the community, and I'm saying in the future we should move towards that. I mean, why shouldn't we appreciate work? The organizer wants to make profit, the audience wants an experience, but how can we not investing in it? And that's what it is. We're investing in getting quality, and I think once you start doing that, like people who are learning they have like a goal, like, okay, if I become more professional, then it can lead to maybe I can make this a career. And people who have the talent and are looking to be paid, they want to perform. If they're not being paid, they may not want to do it. I mean, I'm not asking for money here, but I'm just speaking.
It's also like bringing down Indian artists. They're giving them all these things, accommodations,
food,
exactly, and right, and they get a lot of hours to perform on that stage, but we're also called in for maybe 5 minutes. And
it's appreciation at the end of the day, it's just,
But you can also invest, you have a group, you said, right? So if you get some money, you can invest into equipment or, special trainings and stuff like that too, right? Yeah. Let's talk about one of the things you mentioned about starting to do. I mean, you talked about the single-use industry and having some regulations. We don't have a government, but as a community, we can demand certain things from certain places, right? Is there things that we could demand as a community in the structural ways to make sure that our cinema is promoted?
No, yeah, I've been thinking about this too, and we have some powerful organizations, right? At least used to be, and now too. And these organizations, instead of recognizing, individual, awarding them in their gala events or something like that, they need to, proactively encourage these sort of things, right, from the beginning. Like Jessica's parents, they were there for like how many months? I don't know. Like, I don't know whether I don't know anything about their parents, but these organizations, if they had given them like $200 a month, now they can share the success of Jessica, and then this is gonna, like, their membership or something is gonna go up. So it's a win-win situation, but the organizations, they don't take this as a serious thing. That's where the problem is.
I feel like we need to build a sense of trust. The organizers need to trust that we're quality performers and that we could provide them with such, because I'm currently working on an album with Steve Cliff Valentine, and putting that big production and bringing down the Indian artists that worked with us, getting the venue and all these things, it's something that we cannot do on our own. We need the community to trust in us, and the like sponsors to come approach us and be willing to help us to run this successful event. So that we can provide the community with an unforgettable night, right?
So this is investment that we are talking about, right? Like, in Canadian government, for example, we don't have a government technically for Tamils, but Canadian government has funds for artists, right? To give money for their dance production, to have a filmmaker make a film and so on. But it is also harder for racialized people to access those things, because how arts is defined in the mainstream is heavily Eurocentric, but there are ways in which, so if our community can start something as a fund, as a Jessica may not need that money, or maybe
may
she
not
does,
need it,
maybe she does, but if everybody who was interested in that particular attention paid $1 or $2 a year, we would have actually a fund that we can actually generate to support local artists to go to a scholarship or of something, or train them.
Yeah, it's $1,000 or $2,000. It's not a big deal, right? But even the organizations, they can put their name behind these artists too, right? They developed it's one of the crucial thing. and you know they are also struggling now, right? So
I agree with what Lenin M said. He said, like, you know, as a community, we're so powerful. I mean, we started coming here in late 80s, and if you look back in the years, we've done so much. So going towards, you know, developing talent, it should be, you know, easy breezy for us. And I think if you take, for example, if you take Mervish, it's a theater company in Toronto, they're one of the largest North American theater companies, and they have the largest number of subscribers. And all their productions, you know, they're valued. They you know, we know that they're going to give us quality performances where, you know, you pay like somewhere between $30 or $100, but you know you're going to get a great experience. But all of their performers are protected by an equity association. So stuff like that, like I'm sure there's things that we can do from an artist's point of view, you know, groups that we can make to go towards that, to make it easier.
That's a good point. I think now we are at a, you know, it's the basic needs in your community, right? You have to first find a good employment, teach your kids, give them the educational opportunities. And I think we are growing slowly, and next few years there will be a focus on arts, and that's a natural progression. So we are at the end of this show. You know, I believe that individuals make up community. Individual successes are good for our community growth as a talent development. Not everything has to be a community success. Individuals who are community grounded in the community is good. So last 1 minute for each of you. I'll start maybe from Yalni and come down this way. About what your plans are, and with respect to arts in the near future. What are your plans?
Well, we're talking about talent development, and I want to be optimistic. So my goal would be to continue performing, continue teaching, and hopefully be able to make art not just a side hobby thing, but into a career. And for that, we need to take into account what we talked about today, and as a community comes together to make not just mine, but, you know, all the artists' dreams, you know, musicians, movie makers, and make all of that happen. So that's my goal, to be, you know, to hopefully be part of the generation that changes that.
And apart from all the performing that I am doing, I've taken music as a professional career. So if I become a teacher, which is my future goal, or a professor, I want to share my knowledge to all the students out there. But if I do want to take any big projects or anything big like that, I would also need the support of our community and everyone to come together. So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Your plans, if we can share it.
no, you know, it's been 6 months. I left my job, full-time job, and I'm trying this for you know, full-time. So hoping to make a career out of it. So that's what I'm doing. For me, like you know, I just wanted to become, you know, someone who can set some example, and I want to try to, you know, make a career out of it. I don't know, but I'm at that stage.
Trailblazer, so we can have more people developing the cinema in diaspora. That's great. I know it's amazing work that you're doing, but behind that amazing success is a lot of hard work that you've been putting in to make that happen, with all the barriers we talked about, and to commit to going into a professional setting of full-time career in arts is definitely a challenge, but definitely, you know, not more than you, I think our community will benefit. The identity and the uniqueness of our Canadian Tamil identity will be maintained through that. So thank you very much, Lenin, Lakshmi and Yalni, for taking the time to joining us and sharing these insights. So viewers, hopefully you got a sense of what we need to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing when it comes to Canadian talent development. Looking forward to you all participating in supporting our local artists in their growth, selectively based on their, obviously based on their skills and talents, but generally as a community, expanding and investing in our talent. So in a week, we'll meet you with another topic. Thank you for watching. Thank you.